We are seduced by grand gestures, the overnight success, the viral moment, the dramatic transformation. But real change, the kind that rewires your character and reshapes your life, doesn't come from occasional bursts of effort. It comes from doing the small, difficult things repeatedly, especially when no one is watching. Consistency outlasts talent. It outperforms luck. It is quiet, but it is relentless. And in the long run, it builds a life nothing else can. We live in a culture that glorifies intensity. We love the dramatic, the all or nothing hustle, the big push, the overnight success story. It's deeply satisfying, even romantic, to believe that a singular burst of energy, a powerful decision, or one perfect opportunity can alter the course of your life. And to some degree, yes, moments matter. Pivotal choices can define us. But what really determines the trajectory of a life, what truly separates those who grow from those who stagnate, is not intensity. It's consistency. See, intensity is seductive. It feels powerful. You feel alive when you start something with passion. A new project, a new goal, a fitness plan, a career path. It gives you a surge of dopamine, a vision of possibility. But the reality is that surge fades. Motivation has a half-life. It decays, usually faster than you expect. And what's left in its place is something much less glamorous. Boredom, resistance, self-doubt, fatigue. This is where most people give up. Not because they're incapable, but because they were relying on emotional momentum, not a structured commitment. Now think about the opposite of that. Think about someone who doesn't burn bright in the beginning, but who shows up daily, slowly, patiently, even when they don't feel like it, even when it's inconvenient. That person doesn't always stand out at first. You might not even notice them, but over time, over months, years, they build something durable. They gain skill, depth, mastery, and without the firework, without the drama, they surpass those who sprinted at the start and fizzled out. Consistency is humble. It's often invisible, but it is absolutely unforgiving in its power. And here's the psychological truth. Human beings are not transformed by what they do occasionally. They are shaped by what they do consistently. Your habits are carving grooves into your identity. Every repeated action, no matter how small, is a vote for who you are becoming. There's a Stoic insight that I think captures this perfectly. We become what we repeatedly do, not what we say, not what we hope, what we do. That means if you write a sentence a day, you're a writer. If you show up for your values daily, you're building character. And if you betray those values often enough, even in little ways, you slowly become someone else. There's no neutral ground here. The direction of your life is being sculpted by repetition, whether you're conscious of it or not. And this isn't just psychological, it's biological. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself through a process called neuroplasticity. Every time you act, neurons fire together, and the brain strengthens that connection. So if you consistently act with discipline, with courage, with focus, you're not just trying harder, you're becoming a person who acts that way by default. That's the magic of consistency. It turns effort into identity. But here's the part most people miss. You don't have to do everything at once. In fact, trying to be intensely consistent in everything is just another form of self-sabotage. What you need is a few clear commitments, one or two areas where you will show up no matter what, even when you're tired, even when you failed, even when no one applauds. That's how you gain power. Not by trying to be impressive, but by being reliable. Because what you build slowly, you build deeply. Fast victories may feel good, but they don't last. Consistency, on the other hand, doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes you. And once you've built a life on consistent action, it's not easily taken from you because it's not dependent on how you feel. It's not vulnerable to luck. It's built into your nervous system, your daily rhythm, your very sense of self. So if you want to change your life, stop waiting for the next moment of passion. Stop chasing the next wave of motivation. Pick something worth doing and do it daily, imperfectly, quietly, but relentlessly. Because in the end, it's not the loudest effort that wins. It's the one that never stopped showing up every day With every small action, you're voting for the person you are becoming. Most people don't realize that destiny is crafted moment by moment in the way you speak, in whether you finish what you started, in how you respond when no reward is guaranteed. Consistency isn't just about success, it's about identity. You become what you repeatedly do. And if you want to change your life, start by changing your routine. There's a powerful truth that many people overlook, not because it's hidden, but because it's too simple to seem profound. Your future is hidden in your daily habits, not in your dreams, not in your intentions, not even in your moments of inspiration. It's in the structure of your days, the quiet routines you follow when no one's watching, the repeated choices you make, especially when they feel insignificant, because those choices aren't just leading you somewhere, they're creating the path you're on. We live in a culture obsessed with outcomes, with big wins, with milestones. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with having goals, there's a danger in focusing solely on the destination. You begin to forget that the destination is simply the result of a direction, one determined by what you do again and again today, tomorrow. The day after that, if you look closely, most people don't fail because they lack a vision. They fail because they never build the habits that would turn that vision into reality. They have a vague image of success in their minds, but they haven't reverse engineered the daily actions it would take to get there. And even when they do, they underestimate the difficulty of repeating those actions consistently. So they drift, or they stall, or they start over again and again, never realizing that what they need isn't more ambition. What they need is alignment between what they want and what they do every single day. Psychologically, this is where identity plays a crucial role. You see, every habit you reinforce sends a signal to your subconscious. This is who I am. And over time, those signals accumulate. If you wake up and hit snooze 10 times, that's a vote for being the kind of person who procrastinates. If you read even 2 pages a day, that's a vote for being a learner. If you keep your word, especially to yourself, you're voting for self-respect. These votes matter, not just because they influence results, but because they shape the story you tell yourself about who you are. And that story is either a force of liberation or a weight of self-sabotage. One of the most misunderstood things about success is that it's rarely the product of one massive act. It's usually the compound effect of dozens, hundreds of small behaviors repeated over time. Think about it like this. A single workout doesn't make you fit. One kind word doesn't build a strong relationship. A single day of budgeting doesn't create financial freedom. These things only emerge when the actions behind them become habitual, when they're no longer a debate in your mind, but a natural part of who you are. Now, that doesn't mean your habits need to be extreme. In fact, the most sustainable ones usually aren't. They're often almost embarrassingly simple. But what makes them powerful is that they're done. They're real. They exist in your calendar, not in your imagination. You don't have to do them perfectly. You just have to do them consistently. And here's the deeper philosophical point. When you choose your habits, you're choosing your future self. Not just your results, but your being, your mental patterns, your emotional stability, your character. The person you'll become 5 years from now is not hiding in a distant fantasy. It's being assembled brick by brick in how you live this week. So ask yourself hard questions. Are your habits aligned with your values, with your goals, with the life you claim you want? Because if they're not, you don't need more willpower. You need more honesty. You need to step back and redesign your systems, your rituals, your routines, so that they pull you toward your potential instead of away from it. And remember, the changes don't need to be huge. They just need to be real. 5 minutes of writing a day, 10 minutes of stillness, 1 less distraction, 1 more hour of focused work. These are small hinges that swing big doors. Not immediately, but inevitably. In the end, it's not your potential that defines your future, it's your patterns. And those patterns begin today. Choose wisely. Motivation is fleeting. Some days, you will not feel like showing up. You will feel tired, lost, or unsure. But those moments are the proving ground. Discipline is doing what is necessary, regardless of how you feel. And consistency is born in those hard moments when it would be easier to quit, and yet you don't. That's where confidence is forged. That's where transformation begins. Let's be honest, there's a reason most people struggle with consistency. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they don't care. It's because they built their lives around the wrong source of energy. They rely on emotion. They wait to feel motivated. They hope to feel inspired. But emotion is a wave. It rises, it crashes, and then it disappears. And if your effort is tied to your emotional state, then your commitment will always be unstable because you're not in control of your feelings. Not completely. But you can be in control of your actions. This is where discipline enters the conversation, not as punishment, not as something rigid or joyless, but as a necessary bridge between emotion and execution. Discipline is the structure that carries you through the chaos of your emotional landscape. It's the internal code that says, I will do what is necessary even when I don't feel like it. That's not cruelty, that's maturity. The problem is, we've been conditioned to believe that our feelings should guide our behavior. That if we're tired, we rest. If we're overwhelmed, we quit. If we're uninspired, we wait. But if you live like that, reactively, passively, you'll only ever move in circles because there will always be resistance. There will always be discomfort. There will always be days when you don't want to do the work. And ironically, those are the days that matter most. That's the paradox. Consistency isn't proven when you're at your best. It's proven when you're at your worst, when your mind is scattered, when your body is tired, when your emotions are turbulent. That's where your character is revealed. That's where discipline either collapses or carries you forward. And that doesn't mean you push yourself recklessly. It doesn't mean you never rest, but it does mean you understand that discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being loyal to your values, even when your mood tries to talk you out of it. It's a kind of self-respect, a declaration. I will not betray what I believe in just because today is difficult. Psychologically, this is the battleground between your higher self and your impulsive self. The part of you that wants long-term growth versus the part of you that wants immediate comfort. And whichever part you feed, that's the part that grows stronger. So every time you follow through, in spite of discomfort, you're strengthening the muscles of responsibility. You're telling yourself, I can be relied on. I do not abandon myself, and that begins to compound. You start to build momentum, confidence, integrity, not because every day is perfect, but because you've stopped waiting for the perfect day. You've decided that your values are non-negotiable. That's where power comes from. Not in doing what feels good, but in doing what is right and doing it repeatedly. Now, this doesn't make the work easier, but it does make the meaning clearer. When you're disciplined, you don't have to wonder if today is a good day to act. You already decided. You created a structure, and that structure liberates you because it removes the mental clutter, the constant negotiation. It frees up energy to focus on the work itself instead of arguing with yourself about whether or not you should do it. There's an old saying, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And discipline is the system. It's not a lack of freedom, it's the foundation of freedom. Because once you know how to act independently of your emotions, you can be trusted. By others, yes, but more importantly, by yourself. And that's the shift. That's when consistency becomes sustainable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. You become the kind of person who can carry responsibility, who doesn't flinch under pressure, who honors commitments, not just when it's convenient, but when it's inconvenient, especially then. So the next time you don't feel like doing the work, ask yourself this: what kind of person do I want to become? And then act accordingly. Not because it feels good, but because it's right. Discipline isn't about denying your emotions. It's about not letting them decide your destiny. Every time you follow through on your word, even in small things, you strengthen your own self-respect. People sense that. The world starts to take you seriously when you start taking yourself seriously. And that begins with showing up repeatedly, predictably, not perfectly, but reliably. If people can count on you, opportunities will open. But more importantly, you'll begin to count on yourself. And that's a foundation no failure can destroy. One of the hardest truths people have to confront in life is that progress is rarely linear. You take 3 steps forward and then, without warning, you're knocked 2 steps back. You commit for a month and then fall off course for a week. You stay consistent for a season and then life disrupts everything. An illness, a failure, a disappointment. And in those moments, it becomes painfully easy to abandon the process. You start to believe that you've undone all your effort, that the momentum you built was meaningless, and that consistency betrayed you. But that isn't the reality. That's just the story your pain tells you. The truth is, setbacks are not the opposite of progress. They are part of it. There is no version of growth that doesn't involve resistance. No version of mastery without missteps. In fact, if you look closely, those failures are often the very events that deepen your understanding and humble your expectations. They act like psychological recalibrations. They remind you that consistency isn't about perfection, it's about return, about how quickly you get back up, not whether you ever fall. And this is where most people get it wrong. They assume that being consistent means never breaking the chain, never missing a day, never failing. But human beings aren't machines. You are not defined by whether or not you fall. We're defined by how you respond when you do. There's a moral strength in returning to the path after you've wandered, a kind of courage that transcends routine. It's easy to be consistent when everything is working in your favor, but it's deeply admirable when you keep going after disappointment, after loss, after humiliation. That's when consistency becomes something more than discipline. It becomes integrity. Philosophically, this touches on a deeper point about human nature. We are, by design, unfinished, always in process. And if you expect yourself to evolve in a straight line, you'll always be disappointed. Life is too complex for that. There are too many unknowns, too many moving parts. The goal isn't to avoid all deviation. It's to have the strength to realign, to have a North Star so clear that even when you're lost, you know where to turn back toward. Think of it like sailing. A skilled sailor doesn't expect a direct, flawless journey. They anticipate the winds, the currents, the inevitable course corrections. What matters is that the destination remains in sight, that even when blown off path, they don't give up on the voyage. That's consistency in real life. It's not robotic repetition, it's commitment through chaos. And practically speaking, this mindset changes everything. It removes the all or nothing thinking that paralyzes people after small failures. It teaches you to forgive yourself without excusing complacency. It replaces guilt with accountability. That way, when you miss a workout or skip a study session or break your routine, you don't spiral. You reflect, you adjust, and then you return. This is where psychological maturity comes in, because immature minds want to quit when the process doesn't go perfectly. But mature minds understand that growth isn't a straight climb, it's a jagged ascent. And the climb is often slower than expected, more painful than planned. But it's also deeper than it looks. Every time you fall and get back up, you're not just moving forward, you're becoming someone more resilient, more aware, more anchored in purpose. So when the setbacks come, and they will, don't let them define you. Don't confuse a bad week with a bad life. Don't mistake disruption for defeat. And above all, don't let your temporary detour convince you to abandon the road altogether. Your journey isn't ruined because you stumbled. It's only ruined if you stop walking. Progress is not measured by perfection. It's measured by return. And return, over time, is what transforms effort into excellence. We often think success arrives in a moment of brilliance. But the truth is, greatness is a rhythm built over months, years, decades of consistent work. Athletes, artists, leaders, they're not made by chance. They're formed through thousands of unseen hours. There is no shortcut to excellence. There is only the rhythm of effort, recovery, learning, and repetition. The question isn't, can you be great? It's will you be consistent enough to become it? Let's talk about time. not in some vague poetic way, but in its rawest and most unforgiving form. Time is indifferent. It doesn't care who you are, what you've been through, or what your dreams are. It can move forward relentlessly. And the sobering reality is this: you are either using time to build something, or time is being used against you, quietly, invisibly, through inaction, distraction, or procrastination. Consistency is the antidote to this slow erosion. Because what you do repeatedly over time becomes who you are. Not what you do once when you're motivated. Not what you post when people are watching. But the mundane, uncelebrated, quiet repetitions, day after day, year after year, that slowly build something meaningful. And that's where most people miss the mark. They want transformation, but they're not willing to engage with the process. They want results, but they disregard the cost. And the cost is always time. Not just the passage of it, but the investment of it. You see, every action you take, no matter how small, ripples across time. There is no such thing as neutral motion. You're either moving closer to your values, your purpose, your potential, or drifting further from them. This is not a philosophy of guilt, but of responsibility. And responsibility, if you carry it with the right mindset, becomes deeply meaningful. You start to understand that every small, consistent act is a vote toward the person you want to become. And enough votes over time, that becomes your identity. Psychologically, this is the foundation of what we call agency. The belief that your actions matter, that your effort counts, and that your behavior can shape your future. It's a belief that combats the chaos of life by giving you a place to stand. And consistency is how you enact that belief, not by doing everything, but by doing something deliberately, repeatedly, with purpose. The beauty of time is that it multiplies effort. Slowly, yes, but consistently. Think about it. 5 minutes of honest work every day compounds into hours. A single decision to choose discipline over ease, repeat 100 times, becomes a new standard. A tiny commitment carried out faithfully becomes a legacy. The mistake most people make is underestimating the power of those small moments. They wait for grand opportunities, for perfect circumstances, for emotional clarity, but those things rarely come. And when they do, they're often wasted because the person hasn't built the internal scaffolding required to hold them. And that scaffolding, that's what consistency gives you. It's a structure you can build your life upon. It protects you from despair during hard seasons and prevents arrogance during good ones. It gives you dignity because it teaches you that your behavior, not your mood, defines your direction. And over time, it gives you results. Not overnight, not with fanfare, but quietly, steadily, like a mountain forming from pressure, like a tree growing inch by inch, like a life that, in the end, means something because it was built intentionally. This mindset requires patience. It requires faith. Not blind faith in outcomes, but faith in the process. Faith that even if you don't see immediate changes, the work still matters. That the act of showing up, especially when it's hard, isn't wasted. It's recorded internally, psychologically, spiritually. Every time you act with consistency, you're reinforcing a deeper narrative. I am someone who can be relied on. I am someone who can endure. I am someone who moves forward, even when it's slow. And that's what makes consistency so powerful. It's not just about habits or routines. It's about identity. Every day you choose discipline. Every time you honor your commitments, you're shaping a future version of yourself that can carry more weight, take on more responsibility, and act with greater purpose. So if you're wondering whether it's worth it, whether these small daily efforts matter, the answer is yes. Not because they'll lead to instant success, but because they'll lead to you becoming someone strong enough to carry success when it arrives. Time is passing either way. Let who you become in that time be your greatest work of art,